Christopher Altier.
Good evening, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this event. My name is Christopher Altier, and I'm running for the Probate Juvenile. I am a native of Ashtabula, Ohio, the son of Dr. and Mrs. Samuel Altier. I graduated from the College of Worcester, where I received a Bachelor of Arts degree. I then went to the University of Akron and received my JD, the law degree. After that, I did some postgraduate work and received a master's in legal letters in estate planning at the University of Miami in Florida, Florida. I am admitted to practice in all courts in Ohio as well as the United States Tax Court. For the last 25 years, I have been in private practice in Ashtabula, handling many cases occurred in the probate juvenile court. I've also done extensive real estate work. I started the Ashtabula Land Title Agency, which is a real estate closing firm for residential as well as commercial transactions, and we've handled over 14,000 cases in the last 19 years. The probate juvenile court is much different than the general division of county pleas. Probate cases are generally adoption, estate administration, guardianship, minor settlements, wrongful death, and trust administration. Juvenile court, which is also within probate court jurisdiction, they're combined here because our county is small. Include abuse, neglect, custody, visitation, delinquency, and support, as well as some traffic tickets. During the last 25 years, I worked with Jobs and Family Services, as well as the Adult Protective Service, and helped coordinate and begin the volunteer guardianship program, which was critically needed in this county to advocate for the elderly. Through cooperation of various agencies, and without additional tax dollars, we were able to create and maintain that program. I had a sense of civic involvement from the Marine Museum, Finnish American Heritage Society, formed the Ashtabula Park District Foundation, and set up the Cynthia Nymarsh Township Park Trust. In addition, I served on the Salvation Army Board of the Cancer Society. I believe it's imperative the successor to this judgeship had practical experience in handling cases which probate juvenile court hears. And administratively, being have a success in private practice and title agency clearly shows I'm self-starter and innovative. And I ask for your support in November. Thank you.
Albert Camplese.
Good evening. I'm Albert Camplese. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters, ATEC, for hosting this event. I'm delighted to be here and have this opportunity to share my qualifications and my ideas for the juvenile probate court. Now, I'm here to assert that the best experience for being a judge is, quite frankly, being a judge. Fundamentally, the juvenile probate court is a family court. So I feel it's important to note that I'm a married individual. My wife, Christy, and I have 3 daughters. We have a grandson. I'm the only candidate in this race that's actually raised children. I'm the only candidate who has actually worked in a children's home. I'm the only candidate who has actually been a foster parent. I'm the only candidate who has adopted a child. Additionally, my wife and I have guided 4 parents through extended illnesses and death in the past 4 years. So I'm the only candidate that can bring this degree of empathy and profound understanding of the workings of the juvenile probate court. I am the only candidate, as I referred to earlier, who is presently a judge, and this single qualification cannot be overstated. I've been the judge of our county's busiest court for 21 years. My annual caseload averages 10,000 cases a year. This caseload information is important since the juvenile probate court handles between 2,500 and 3,000 cases per year. And most importantly, 75% of that caseload is in the area of juvenile, the juvenile side, the juvenile division, which would involve behavior corrections, not probate issues. I'm the only candidate who has actually worked in a courtroom every day for nearly 30 years. I've not diverted my career by starting a business. I've not taken my attention away from the courtroom. That is where I chose to work. I'm the only candidate who was a prosecutor. I've won local, state, and national awards for my service, dedication, and innovation in my court. I'm the only candidate who was prosecuted or presided in cases involving criminal child neglect, interference with custody, domestic violence, vandalism, sex crimes involving children, and I'm the only candidate who has 21 years' experience applying the standards that are applicable in cases involving the competency of individuals. I've spent nearly 30 years developing the expertise, the knowledge, and the professional relationships required to effectively address life's messy and too often very grave social problems. Most significantly, I've done it in an environment that has required me to resolve over 200,000 cases in 21 years. I'm the only candidate who brings this degree and level of experience to this job. Substance abuse is currently our county's #1 problem. I've spent nearly 3 decades studying and applying behavior correction methodologies. I have vast experience in treating substance abuse. I've lectured at every opiate summit that Ashtabula County has maintained, and I was invited to attend the state judicial summit on opiate addiction. I prepare public budgets, secure grants, implement cost-effective programming. I supervise magistrates, clerks, bailiffs, probation officers. The best experience, again, is being a judge, and on November 4, I ask that you make history with me and elect me to be the first judge who specialized in behavior correction, and elect me as the juvenile probate judge.
Please explain your civic experience. Example, a board you served on, concerns you have actively supported, and how you supported these. Mr. Altier.
Well, beginning back in the early 90s, I was on the Salvation Army Board and eventually became the head of that board. And we at that time, were involved in several different programs from fire rescue and obtaining a lot of competitive funding since many of the other agencies had left Ashtabula. The Ashtabula Historical Society was an umbrella group that was formed for cost savings, so that the Hubbard House, the Maritime Museum, as well as the American Heritage Society would function and maintain their 501c3 status with cost savings, not having to both have accountants. You would just have one accountant do everything. Currently, Cynthia Marsh, Hartsgrove Township Park Trust, is an organization we're going to be creating a park at Hartsgrove Township with that.
Thank you. Mr. Camplese.
This is an interesting question, because as I sat here, I started connecting some dots as to my journey of being here tonight. And it occurred to me that I probably served 3 or 4, maybe 5 separate terms as a director on the Ashtabula County YMCA board. And in looking back, I guess my commitment to the youth of our county, to the families of our county, and to the problems that they face and the alternatives that they need to have available to them as young families and as young individuals probably started back when I became an attorney, and without even knowing it, this path is taking me to this spot. I'm currently on the YMCA board. I think I'm in my 2nd term. I believe next year I termed out, so to speak, for probably the 3rd or 4th time that I've served on that board. I've served on the board of the Ashtabula County Speech Hearing Rehabilitation Board as well. And again, the common theme, and I hadn't thought about it until just now, involves young people and the problems that young people have in dealing with handicaps of that nature. So those would be the 2 most relevant board experience and civic involvement that I would cite tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you aware of the Ashtabula Senior and Advocacy Protection Network and also the Volunteer Guardianship Program, and do you support these? Mr. Camplese.
Yes, I am. And you know, the volunteer guardianship program actually has its roots back in the early 90s, I believe probably before Mr. Altier became an attorney. I remember several friends of mine who were working for Children's Services at the time were very actively involved in that guardianship program. For those of you that aren't aware of what the program involves, it's essentially people within the community, typically it draws from the social work community and Children's Services I alluded to. And they will volunteer their time to essentially oversee the welfare of a person who is identified as having needed a guardian. Those individuals will guide them through life's difficult decision-making processes, help them make financial decisions, and keep their interests protected. I applaud the program. I would maintain the program if elected as the juvenile probate judge. Thank you.
Mr. Altier.
Yes, the adult or volunteer guardianship program was basically a one-person operation, and that was Pat Sorahan at Service League. We did get involved. We created and we got jobs in family service with the late Sandy Fletcher as well as Jack Howe, and the adult protection caseworkers of Alice Harper and Barbara Scott. We put that together. I was basically the court liaison, and it just showed how you can get agencies to work together for a common goal of creating an advocacy group to protect the senior citizens in this community.
Thank you. Do you have a recommendation to resolve the overcrowding in our county jail? Mr. Altier.
I think the root of our problem is illiteracy and lack of family, especially when it starts with the young kids. The kids are in the juvenile court and generally through children's services, and then there's a big gap, and until they get in trouble, they're not back in juvenile court. There needs to be some sort of bridging this gap on maintaining contact with these kids and their development. And that also goes right to the issue of illiteracy. These kids need to have success in education to keep them away, from drugs and crime, where inevitably they will turn. Thank you.
Mr. Camplese.
I'll focus my answer on things that, as a judge, I would have control over. First of all, there's two distinctions to this question. What has been discussed this evening relates to the adult population, those housed in the county jail. This question actually, as it would relate to this race, would relate to the youth detention center and how that facility would be used. Now, I firmly believe that jail is not a solution. It is a tool. It is a tool which, if used appropriately, is very effective at creating crisis. And I think one of the things that is needed in the system is a close relationship between the action and the consequence. And the youth detention center, being solely the juvenile probate judge's resource, would be under my sole control as judge. And basically what you do is you use the jail to get people's attention, to stimulate a reason for them to change their behavior. And then you provide structure, provide a game plan, and a template, if you will, that is designed to help them rehabilitate or address the underlying problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidates for comment, please. Court, probate, and now we will do the candidates for the State Board of Education, the ones that are here, please.